Their problem was demand planning. They're a business that's, over 30 years old. It's three generations of family in the men's and kids footwear business, looking to expand actually into women's and girls. And when I first met them, they had just gone through a huge growth kind of spurt in the digital world. So, meaning direct to consumer from their own website, working with department stores like Macy's and Kohl's to do direct to consumer through their websites. And then they had also developed a very large Amazon business. So the team that existed at the time was very used to planning small brick and mortar businesses. And what I mean by small is large volume, but small assortment. So maybe 5, 6, 7 styles. And now, because digital was an endless shelf, they had expanded to, in some cases, hundreds of SKUs, even thousands of SKUs. And managing the inventory for that was very difficult. So when we first met, they kind of told me what their problem was. And at the time, I had been trying to figure out what I was going to do for my next steps. I had been in working with large vendors such as Steve Madden, Liz Claiborne, Aerosols, high SKU intense vendor situations in sales, planning, and eventually management. So during the pandemic, the position I had as an EVP at Steve Madden ended, and I was kind of on a journey figuring out what I was going to do. During that time, I was talking to a lot of technology companies, and I stumbled on one that I really thought was very interesting. And I offered to make an introduction between the CEO and the Deer Stags team. And they met with that team and called me soon after and said, there's really nobody in our company who can handle this integration or understands planning the way you do. Would you be interested in consulting for us? And that's kind of how my business was born and our relationship together was born. Eventually, I started doing many more things than just working on this integration and planning. So my official title with the team is General Merchandise Manager. And there are a lot of projects I work on today. But the very first project I worked on was figuring out this demand planning system. And after working with the original company that I introduced them to, we realized that it was a startup business that was very focused on direct to consumer, your own website mostly. And that being a kind of a hybrid business where we had direct to consumer, we had e-commerce, regular e-commerce. And then when we also had brick and mortar businesses, the system wasn't necessarily built the way we needed it to be built. So instead of committing to that system, I said, before we do this, let me look around a little bit and do some creative investigation. And that's how I came across Safio, honestly. And what really made Safio more interesting to us is it was a planning system created by planners. Up to this point, the company spent more time pulling data from disparate systems, trying to integrate that data into one, let's just call it file, so that at some point in time, somebody could go in and investigate or analyze and figure out what the trends they were seeing were so that they could then action the buy plans. Linked Excel spreadsheets, which, to be quite honest, my entire career in planning, that's what we did. We created, every place I went, we created our own linked spreadsheets. And they're not good because there's constantly, you're pulling data from multiple places that can't talk to each other. So you're massaging the data in order to get it into a place where it can talk to each other, and you can link and VLOOKUP and pivot table and do all these great things that Excel allows you to do, but you spend so much time doing it that by the time you need to actually analyze the data, you can't get there. So a great example of that is something we're doing right now. We have buy meetings on a monthly basis. Our buy meeting was scheduled this week on Wednesday. We were asked to move it up to Tuesday. And we have this analysis that we do before the buy meeting that is unbelievably complicated, pulling information from Safio, pulling information from selling, from all these other places. And right now, I'm hoping any second, Safio will be sending me a new report that instead of taking an entire day to do, I will be able to literally touch a button and have all of the information I need in one place to conduct this meeting. It's interesting that the founders of the other company were tech guys and really smart tech guys who created an app, sold it to somebody, worked for that company for X number of years, and saw the same problem I saw. They saw all of the buyers in the company not using a system that this company had created or bought from somebody, but they were creating their own offline spreadsheets. And so they saw the exact same problem I saw. And when I spoke with them and when I spoke with Safio, I said, oh my God, this is what I've always wanted, needed, and never had. And so they were moving down a path where they would eventually get to what I needed, but they just weren't there at the time. So the only difference between what their system was and the way Safio was is it just wasn't built for people who were using it. It was very smart and it was intuitive. It was great, but planners think a certain way, and their system was not necessarily attuned to the way most planners are already thinking about the functionality with Excel spreadsheets. With Safio, we are able to utilize, there's the two platforms, there's the app platform and then Tableau. And we're able to pull all the Tableau reports right into Excel, and it just works with the way we think. What we're working on right now is helping us get to the buy meeting faster. So the way that the system really works is we go into the app and we do the actual analysis. But at some point in time, the planners need to present to management what it is that we're asking to purchase, right? We have to get somebody's approval to purchase it. And so we essentially have built with Safio a customized report which gives us every single piece of data that our management needs to agree with our determinations. So it provides what we have on hand, what we have on order, what the retail sales have been, what our shipments have been by certain accounts. It gives us projections. What does a 12-week supply look like? What does a 16-week supply? It has every single piece of information in one form that the team can utilize. We are obviously very adept at utilizing the Safio system, but at some point, there needs to be an interface that management can kind of get an executive summary from. And that's what they're building for us right now. They've built other things for us as well. We are currently going through some shifting in our warehousing. And we're trying to get both warehouses to essentially hold the same amount of product. One warehouse is obviously much bigger right now than the other. And there are reports that in working with their team that already existed that they had built for other people that I can do scenario planning on. So having the one huge benefit, we work with one of their planners and we engage with her, 10, 15 hours a month. And the benefit to that is I have always felt that with any system, you never use 100% of it. But because we are able to engage with their planner, we're using more of the capability of this system than any system I've ever used in my past because we are being taught how to use it as we need the functionality. I didn't need the warehousing functionality when I was first taught how to use the system, but I asked a question and they said, oh my gosh, we absolutely have a great report for you. Let's get on the phone. Let's talk about it. Let me show you how to use it. And even if they didn't have a report, they would spend the time with us to figure out, okay, how can we provide you with the information? It's so helpful. When we first arrived at working with Safio and they told me that the functionality of the app was at the size level, and I shared that information with the team, everybody went a little bonkers because they're like, well, there's no way we can plan at the size level. And I said, I want to try this because every single size performs at a different rate. And so you're guessing based upon what you're looking at about what's going to happen in the future without data to prove it or prove or disprove it. With Safio, I can look 18 months into the future and see, what did I ship last year? What did I ship 2 years ago? What months do we ship more of that size than another? And if you actually were to take, 5 different sizes and compare them against each other, you would see a different, what we call curve, which is the monthly sales curve on each size. So it's actually quite easy to plan by size. It's not that it's not time consuming, because as you're going through a needs assessment, it takes time to do it, but all of the data is available right in front of you. I actually now would never not plan by size, because I've learned so much about the quirks in the business that really require you to do it this way. And then we have like different accounts, right? So Amazon and the way their customer utilizes sizes is different than casual mail. Casual mail often only buys wide sizes and large sizes because that's who they're selling their product to. So we can accommodate that, and we can compensate, I think, is the best thing. We can compensate for that when we are buying, if we know that they participate in that particular style or not. So one of the more recent, when you first start using a system, you use it at the rudimentary level, which is what I was talking about, prior. Now we're getting into year 2, and we're actually able to plan Amazon sales by size. So we utilize data we can get from Amazon, we upload it into Safio, and then we're actually planning Amazon's business separate from the rest of our business, because each of our businesses, each of our clients or retailers have different needs. And so A can distort B, but if you can see it separately, it's another data point for making good decisions. And so that's the newest phase in terms of what we are working on with Safio. It exists in their system. We're just learning how to use it now. We do have an outsized proportion of our business is Amazon, and Amazon is different from working with Macy's. And so making sure that we have the right sizes and styles on hand at the right times is super important. So being able to view those data points in the system is going to help us make better decisions. And I'd recommend them for a couple of reasons. One, is the first point, which was it's a system that was created by planners for planners. So there's a language, right, that everybody speaks, and in different parts of different businesses, marketing people speak a different language than salespeople speak, than planners speak, than executives speak. Safio speaks the same language that planners speak, and I think that's really, really important. They understand the problems and have created a solution that addresses the problems that we have. And not only from a grassroots level, or I should say like the lowest level, but all the way up to the executive level. We have, executive dashboards that we utilize that are specifically so that we can talk about high level problems as opposed to, the very granular details of the business. I would absolutely recommend it. The other reason I would recommend it is what I said before also, which is it's the thing I always wanted, needed, and never had. A lot of people have tried to do this, and there's a lot of people out there that are still trying to do this. This is the most, I would say, I wouldn't say intuitive, because it's not like an AI based scenario, but what I would say is it's the system that is linear. I think that's the best way to say it. Most planners think from A, B, C, D, all the way to Z. And this facilitates your ability to think that way. And I think that's really important. And then the third reason why I would recommend it is the team is just fabulous to work with. Just, you know what, they're still growing. They're still improving the systems. They have a roadmap that continues to evolve. we get to participate in recommending some of the things on the roadmap. And I know that there's some of our requests that they'll be, addressing in 2024. And it's been a pleasure to work with them, and also understand that this system is not static and it continues to improve as we continue to make suggestions.